think we just had week 14 of review. I mean, this is really the eve of the playoff review. This is some of the most important times. This is me, Keenan, the man, the myth, the legend who does this all, and I get to be joined by the fourth spot here in our playoffs. Tyler, how are you?
I'm amazing. Feels good. It's been a little bit since I've been to the playoffs. So We've had some rough luck. So it's good to be back. This is the beginning. I'm just telling you right now, it's the beginning. It was a good season. I really enjoyed it too. So let's hope we can just finish it out strong.
Okay, so I'm sorry I have to do this, but I need a moment. Can I take a moment?
You can take a moment. Moment of silence, everyone.
Okay, I wanted to take about I didn't count it out. I wanted to roughly take hopefully around 7-ish seconds because those are the seasons straight that I made the playoffs. So I didn't make the playoffs. I went 7-7 this year, so never a losing season. Yep. Never a losing season. I scrounged that up. I got hit with the J.K. Dobbins bug early. I was an Ira win away in that debacle of a week I had with Joe. One of those two go different. I'm talking to Tyler about me being the 4th seed and him being here. But you know what? That is fantasy football. That's how it goes. I won the championship last year. So you know what? This first thing not making the playoffs, it's whatever to me because I've still got a ring. In the history of our league, I'm still the best of all time. I'm the GOAT. I don't care what anyone has to say. I've got all the records. So I'm the GOAT. So anyone who thinks they can throw shade or dirt on my name, I am the GOAT, and I'm dirty enough because I'm African American already. So you guys can stop that.
Man,
stop that.
Is upset.
I am upset. I had to get it out. I told you I needed a moment.
I'll let you have this. I'll let you have it, Keenan. I'll let you have it.
I told you I needed a moment because I did need a moment. I just need to make sure everybody still knows that as of right now, I'm the defending champion of the world.
Yep.
Me.
You are.
Me. I'm 1-2 in the big game. I understand. I understand that I'm 1-2 in the big game. People compare me to Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning early on before he got into the Broncos. That's my comparisons. Beautiful in the regular season. And then just in the playoffs wasn't always up to snuff. But you know what? We broke through and we won one. So whatever.
Hey.
I needed to get that off my chest. I'm really happy. Thank you for giving me the floor, Tyler.
Oh, of course. Anything for the great Keenan Warner.
Oh my God! I mean, don't make me blush. Don't make me blush. All right,
I'm gonna let you have this one.
Okay, so going through the week, I did what I needed to do. I beat Justin. I beat Joey by 18. My team came out, and I've got one of the scariest teams in the league now. It doesn't matter. It's too late. So I won this week. We got a lot of people joining Cancun. I don't really need to go over this week. We know who's in. We know who's out. Ira got a big win over Joe, so now Joe is the worst team in our league. Regardless of if the points don't even stand it. That was the worst team in the league bowl last week, and now Joe's the worst team in our league until the tournament shows who really is. Camden blew the doors off of Jared. Camden showed why he is a legitimate playoff team and to be scary. Jared just has an inconsistency throughout his team because his team doesn't want to show up, and Tyreek Hill has been a no-show. Then Keenan missed playoffs is now Austin's team. He wants to win it all, so on the trophy, it could be the year that Keenan missed the playoffs.
Okay.
Just wanted everyone to know that, and he beat Justin. Justin lost back-to-back games, lost 3 of his last 4. Do we want to take any of that into consideration? Joe Mixon has been playing as well as, but I mean, he just needs to get to the championship game. Derrick Henry can come back. Tony Pollard's probably out for the season, maybe. But he did pick up Hunter Renfrow, and Hunter Renfrow has been lights out. So he's got a flex now. Justin's going to be still the team to beat. Then we come to you. Talk about your game.
Talk about my game. I mean, it's been the story of the season, you know. I have my players who come in week out most weeks, and they perform, and then it comes down to the receivers. Are they going to perform or not? Luckily, Aaron Rodgers played amazing. Aaron Jones got a couple touchdowns in there. He didn't really even have the yards, but he got the touchdowns, which really made up for Marquise Brown and Diggs' subpar performances. I mean, a 7.4 from Diggs and 4.1 from Marquise Brown. You hate to see that. And I was this close to taking out Marquise Brown and putting in Tyler Lockett. But Tyler Lockett all year has disappointed me in the games he should do well. So I didn't do it. I stuck with Marquise Brown, and Tyler Lockett, had a Tyler Lockett game. So it's been rough. I feel like I've made a lot of the wrong decisions this year. My team's good enough to where even though I'm making the wrong decisions, I've still been getting wins,
That's true.
But I feel like I'm always like, I choose Tyler Lockett and the other guy's as good. And then I don't choose Tyler Lockett and then Tyler Lockett goes off. And that's just what my team has been with my receivers. This is which one and I feel like I made the wrong one every week. It's been a rough year for fantasy for me. We made it to the playoffs. The last couple weeks, honestly, even though I got a couple losses in there, I was missing Jones and stuff. I've been pretty happy with my team. We usually get to around at least 100 points, if not more. There's been a couple weeks that have been worse than that. I'm confident that I can win, but it won't be easy. It's gonna be a fight every week.
Yes, it will definitely be a fight. That second Aaron Jones touchdown pissed me off. Both of them did. That actually, no, wait. The receiving touchdown, you can have that. You can have that. Yeah. You want to know why? Because if you minus 6 points from you, then Timmy wins and I'm in the playoffs. You want to know what the 6 points should be? The Aaron Jones rushing touchdown from 4 yards out that A.J. Dillon ran the entire way down the field. It was A.J. Dillon's time. He ran it on first down there on second down, let me spell him. And then they ran a little. Oh, God, I could have punched somebody in the head. But anyways, here's something I wanted to tell you.
Yeah.
So today, because I knew you were coming on, I was like, let me ask Justin how he feels about your matchup, because obviously I like it. I said, I'm going to be talking to Tyler tonight. I need to know one thing. Are you scared of Tyler? He said, I'd say yes and no, because we can both boom, and I think it comes down to who doesn't boom. I think it'll be close the whole 2 weeks. If he booms the first week, I feel fine because my team can boom as well. I think that it comes down to a bench player being played or not being played. And then he said he was glad he didn't have to play me because he didn't want to, 1, lose to Justin Jefferson, and 2, because I am scary. But anyways, I just wanted to throw that note in there. So basically, Justin is giving you the... Is
that pretty much word for word, or is that...
Yeah, no, I read that word for word.
But it sounded like you read that. Okay. Hey, those are wise words. I spoken by a true fantasy guru.
Yeah, no, Justin...
Respect. I have respect for that. And to touch on what you were talking about earlier, you were talking about how Justin losing 3 of the last 4 weeks. I mean, I think you got to take note of that. Like, it's definitely something. A couple of his players who were killing it earlier haven't been doing as good.
Mixon.
Justin's team, like you said, it has no holes. So, like, how long is that going to last, So, like, you can't get your hopes up on that. Obviously, still, Justin is the one player, like, the one team that I really did, just obviously wanted to avoid. Like, if I could have completely avoided him, somebody else somehow knocks him out, that would have been a dream come true. He's the scariest team. He has been most of the year. But I'd be lying if I said if I said I didn't think I could beat him. Like,
no, see, here's the thing about Justin's team now. I think without Derrick Henry, his team's beatable. Because I traded Justin Jefferson for CeeDee Lamb, which at the time that was fine. Since that point, Justin Jefferson's been arguably the best receiver in football. Like, he's been so great over that stretch. Obviously, it's been him. Cooper Kupp's been doing whatever he wants to all season long. Devontae Adams is Devontae Adams, but he's been in that ilk over the last few weeks. So there's that, and CeeDee Lamb has not been because the Dallas offense hasn't been getting going. So there's that, and then Joe Mixon hasn't been the world beater that he was for that stretch of time for the last couple of weeks, because one of them he got injured. Let me just make sure I'm saying. Yeah, last 2 weeks. Because before the last 2 weeks, he was 21 points, 23, 24, 28. Last week, 2 weeks ago it was 9, last week it was 7. So like he hasn't been that same guy, which has contributed to his losses. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor on a bye last week, and this week he plays New England, which is interesting because New England's run defense is not always the greatest, but at the same time, it's New England, so Bill Belichick will pull up a nice little scheme, and they're coming off a bye. So
yeah, you can't feel comfortable playing New England.
Yeah, you can't feel fully comfortable playing New England. So honestly, it's gonna be really interesting. You're gonna know a lot about your week 1 by Saturday night because he has Herbert in on the 8:20 game. Then he has Jonathan Taylor and Hunter Renfrow playing on Saturday. So that will let you know a lot by that matchup there.
Very true. Yeah.
I love the matchups. I don't really care about. I mean, let me just be nice to everybody else. So we've got me playing Jared. That's going to be probably a shootout again of 2 good teams that just didn't make the playoffs. Then we've got Joey versus Timmy, depending on what his waiver wire picks is, which is interesting to see how that's going to go and see what he feels is good and what's not good in the waiver. And then we've got a rematch of Ira and Joe. So there's that. But so that's pretty much that. This has been a nice season. This has been a fun season. Regardless of me not being in, it's been a fun time because of the fact that we've been able to go back and forth. Like, there's been so much changeover in the league. How do you feel about our league?
No, I liked it. I like it a lot. I think the changes are good. I don't want to, like, if you're asking me, I don't really want to change too much. I mean, like, if they really want PPR, I'm okay with, like, maybe half a point and stuff. I don't see personally for me, I don't really see an issue in the making the tight ends more valuable. I think it was just an off year for tight ends. Like, I like the discrepancy where, like, one position's more valuable than others, because then it throws a wrench in it. If they're all too close to the same, it doesn't, then it doesn't matter what you pick where. But when there's, like, some discrepancy, like a little bit, tight ends might be a little less valuable, but quarterbacks are a little bit more. Like, it throws in that, like, while you're drafting it, makes it harder. It makes it, because you're like, well, shoot, quarterbacks are this valuable. If I wait, I might not get one. But if the quarterbacks are too close to the receivers and running backs and everything, then you're like, oh, well, I'll just wait on one if I don't get one, whatever, Like, at that point.
I.e. Joe DiZazzo this year. Like, I mean, obviously, Joe could have been in the playoffs easy with the trades that he made, but he made trades. He made trades in part because he didn't have a quarterback. Why? Because he waited early. Because he was like, okay, I don't need, which is fair, because I don't need a Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Pat Mahomes, if I can get that next level of Tom Brady, Matt Stafford, Jalen Hurts, people like that. But I took Tom Brady later, but right before he was going to take Tom. And then everybody else just because I had Dak and Tom, so I took both of those. People had people off the board, so then he was stuck with Trevor Lawrence week 1, and we knew. Obviously, we now see how his rookie year went, 9 touchdowns, 14 picks. And so then he was scrambling, and then he had a bunch of depth at running back and things due to injury, so then he had to try to flip it for running backs or for quarterbacks, and then made the wrong decisions, and now he's playing for the worst team in our league. So quarterbacks made it important, and I think that matters because quarterbacks are kind of matter. They matter some.
Exactly. So I'm down for the discrepancy. Like, I'm okay with it. So, like, I think if we do go PPR, like, we could make no changes. I would be happy. Like, this was, like a lot of people have said, most fun year by far. Mm-hmm. Most fun, most competitive. Like, Timmy went from, like, not even close to winning a game to pushing for playoffs.
Yeah, like
Joey went from, like, 4th best team for a while there to worst team to fucking middle of the pack to back up. Like, I didn't know where Joey was going to finish. It was like spinning a wheel. Like, where was it going to stop when the season ended with him? Like, honestly, it was crazy. Like, he was jumping all up and down. Ira was up high in the beginning, dropped down, and then towards the end he won a couple games, and look at him now. Like, he might not. I thought he was going to be dead last, like, easy, but I don't know now.
Yeah, no, so then there was me. There was me who I started off 2-1 even though my team wasn't great, so I was like, guys, watch out. And then it was I went downhill, but then I made some trades and picked back up, and I got to the point where it was like, oh, okay, this kid actually may be able to do this.
Yep.
So that's kind of how I felt about the season too. It's been a really, really fun year, and and definitely for next year, as I was talking about a little bit in the chat, I'm looking at it right now. I want to write up, like I want to get with some people in the league, maybe the night before we do the draft stuff, and just sit down for like 2 hours, talk about the rules, but then I just want to write it all down on a sheet of paper. I obviously type it out, but like I just want to type it out just so we have it. I want to just keep the league more official, keep things like, obviously this year Timmy had the conversation about the kind of loaning players, like the one trade week kind of players, which it was never against the rules because it's not collusion if it's helping both people. But at the same time, I do get what he's saying. It's kind of like well, in fairness, I'm not going to be able to do that with certain players in our league because of the history we have, but then on the other side, you could be like, well, gain better rapport with other people. So, but we voted against that, and so that's just going to be written down, and no one's ever going to think about it again. But those are the things that you'll never talk about until it happens. So,
yeah, no, exactly. And I wasn't upset about it, but I 100% agree with Timmy. Like, I lost against Austin, honestly, because of that. Because you switched tight ends for 1 week because it helped both you. And it was a gray area. You're right. It's not collusion, but it can lead to a road where it can be like easily turned into collusion. So I think it's better just to get rid of it altogether.
And in fairness,
so I was all for it, but I couldn't be mad because it wasn't against the rules and it technically isn't collusion.
Yeah, no, it was
it was just a gray area thing, and it's one of the things, like you said, it has to happen before you can really be like, oh, okay, no, let's get rid of that. So I wasn't upset. It didn't like ruin the season, but like. Of course. I'm glad we came across it.
Yeah, for sure, because if this could have happened at like a later date or something, and actually could have affected the season even more entirely, then it could have been more controversial. But like it happened, we nipped it instantly. I mean, I won a game because of it, because I would have started Dallas Goedert the week that I traded him to Austin. I got Keenan Allen, who put up a good week, and then that was the week George Kittle came back and blew up. And so I won a game because of it, because I wouldn't have probably started Goddard or Kittle over Goddard that week. But, it worked out, but it's over with, and that's fine. Also, one thing that I'm interested to hear your opinion on, do you think we should move our trade deadline and make it earlier? So, like, there's more weeks without it?
I actually did have input on that. I just think it should be, like, Thanksgiving week. Like maybe Thanksgiving the last day or something instead of after Thanksgiving. I think it's slightly too late. Maybe a week or two too earlier. I think it was a slightly too late. And it affected too much, because it was too close to the end where people were pretty much sure that they weren't making it because they needed a miracle. I think 1 or 2 weeks earlier, it's still up in the air enough to where it won't affect too much. I actually did have that in mind, and I was going to bring that up when we were talking about rule changes next year.
Mm-hmm. So I was going to say that's something interesting that I was thinking the same thing too, because. Yeah. Obviously, it's week 14. We ended it like week 12. If we did it like week 10 to where every single team could still mathematically be in the playoffs, and most teams are going to be for that, so they're not just kind of throwing players away for no reason. Because I know, like, regardless of it being collusion or not, because I don't think it's collusion, it's just the fact that if you're like, oh, I'm not probably going to win anyway, so a trade that was like teetering on, I don't think I'm going to do it, it's like, yeah, whatever, I'll do it. Because, like, what do I have to lose?
Yep.
And so that trade could benefit somebody. So I definitely wouldn't mind moving that forward.
What I was talking about earlier, I don't think I ever touched on it, but it's like if they did want to do PPR, like I said, I think I'd be okay with it. But I think it should just be 0.5 for everybody, not like 1 for some people and 0.5 for others. I think it should just be 0.5 across the board. If we do PPR.
That's fair. Also, Timmy brought up something to me on the phone.
Sure.
And let me think. Oh, yeah, that's what it was. So he brought up to him something when I was on the phone with him, and he was like, should we have the season end week 17 instead of week 18? So, like, there's not, because, like, I know we had this talk in the past before of not having the fantasy season end on the last week of football because there's people who will sit people and do things like that. So I was wondering, so he brought that up to me as a little interesting point, and I wanted to know what you thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, almost every league I've come into, especially starting like last year and shit when they started changing, the league started changing, how many weeks there were and when the bye weeks were and everything. It's kind of hard to say, like, because now that they're like changing how many games there are and everything, it's kind of hard to say. It's early on, but it's definitely an issue that could come up. I'm not against it. If we ended at 17 instead, I mean, because it suck, if you have such a good team, and then you get to the last week and then there's that team's sitting players, And if you have a good team in fantasy, you got players on good teams, you're gonna win. You go if you have two players on the Jacksonville Jaguars, your team's gonna be crap. You have two players on the Cowboys or the Raiders, or the Rams, like these like high-powered offense teams that are good, you're gonna win. So like those teams. So the better you are, the more likely you're gonna have those players who are sitting too. So,
and also it's like for most situations, that's not something you should like. There are certain things like when you're drafting your team, you should plan for the bye weeks because those are specifically set in. Like if someone was just to bet this year that say the Packers could, like, the Packers just have their division locked up and they can't advance or do anything in the last week of the season. Like, you can't really predict that. Like, you would have to predict the entire league, but you know when bye weeks are, so you shouldn't. So either draft it so you're just going to be like, I'm going to lose a week. Like, I don't care. I'm just going to lose, like, week 13 because every one of my team's a bye, which almost is a smarter situation than having to deal with multiple byes in multiple weeks.
Yeah,
you just just forfeit a week.
They lost to the Cardinals, so they're not going to have the tiebreaker over them. So the best they can get is 2 seed. I know they have the tiebreaker over the Rams and the Buccaneers. So yeah, I think they're stuck at 2 seed. They're probably going to sit their people last week. I'm not going to draft.
Like that's just not fantasy. So that's just not fantasy. So no, I completely utterly agree with the fact I would be fine with the switch in that. If not, it's whatever because we've dealt with it before. But at the same time, if people are like, yeah, at the end of the season, let's change it, I'm good with it. So because like those are the touch little things that I would like to be fine with because those really don't affect the league all that much.
Yep.
So those are the little things that I'd like to, and I think the big thing's going to be PPR. Because I know there's been a few people, not just Timmy. I only mentioned Timmy because he's talked about rules, but it's not just Timmy that I think may have a little bit of a problem with quarterback scoring so much. See, I don't personally mind it because I think the quarterback's the most important position, so they do.
Too. And it gives it that discrepancy.
Yeah, like you feel like they are the most important position on your team, so you want to draft them earlier. Like, I don't. Like, for some people, it's, like, almost wrong for quarterbacks to go late first round or second round. For me, it's not at all because if you think about a draft, the quarterbacks are going to go instantly in the first round every year. That if there was a draft right now in the NFL, your first 20 picks are going to be 15 quarterbacks, Aaron Donald, TJ Watt, and maybe Derrick Henry. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're just going to be mostly quarterbacks.
So and this is the thing that for me, exactly what the league was this year is what makes fantasy great because obviously your running backs important. You the teams that have more the better running backs are good. So that's why they tend to go first, But when your quarterbacks, your quarterbacks are almost never going that high. Then maybe the end of the first if somebody's feeling gutsy or sometime in the second, like you said, for the top ones. But even then, because they're so much more valuable, you got to kind of take them early. But then if you take them too early, then you're missing out on those running backs that are good. Like a Joe. Well, I mean, at this point, Joe Mixon probably be end of the first next year. He's earned that respect.
Jonathan Taylor may be the number one taken next year. This year he was like a 4th round pick.
But for instance, this year, Joe Mixon was more like a middle of the second. Some people who didn't like him, maybe even if some league didn't like him, maybe even the end of the second.
Yeah.
So this year, he's like the perfect example because like in that one, maybe they take a quarterback. In this one, maybe because quarterbacks are so valuable, maybe somebody takes. I don't know, Kyler Murray. In the second, they're really high on Kyler Murray. They take Kyler Murray. Middle of the second instead of like a Joe Mixon, right? Well, Joe Mixon, top 3 running back this year. Or I'm getting rid of Derrick Henry just because like he's been hurt, so he's been out. So but like honestly, like touchdown wise, he's second in touchdowns. He's had hella yards. Fantasy wise, he's been up there, So
he's been phenomenal.
He would have been better than a Kyler Murray just because Kyler Murray's had a rough year. Like he's been injured for a lot, he started out hot, but like at least like the last five weeks, it's been a little bit more rough.
Mm-hmm.
He's back. I think he'll get back to it, but like
Joe Mixon
as far as like the whole year goes, Joe Mixon's the better pick in the middle of the second.
Joe Mixon is the third best running back right now.
Kyler there because they're so much more valuable, and they but if they're like even, somebody might be like, oh, just go and get Joe Mixon. Running backs are more more important. I can wait and get a quarterback later on. It just throws that discrepancy in there, and like it just makes your planning that much more. It makes it harder. It makes it more fun. It really shows you who's obviously there's always luck in fantasy, but it shows talent too in education.
Of course, and like the thing that I love about it too is that because obviously we were talking about comparing everything to the NFL as closely as possible because that's what makes things fun. Obviously, it's fantasy, so you want to have more stacked teams, so you want to have fun. The reason why I don't like keepers fully is because I like to draft everybody every year. That's why I like FanDuel, because like I get to pick whoever I want every single year, and I get to ride with that. But like if we're comparing to the NFL, if you don't have a good quarterback, you're not winning. Like your team has to be phenomenal for you have to be the 2000 Ravens with Trent Dilfer, but have the best defense of all time. So, like, in fantasy-wise, that would be like you don't have a great quarterback, but you have the 1-2 running back combination, and you have, like, the best receiver and a great tight end.
Well, in the history of the NFL, there's only been like 3 mediocre quarterbacks to somehow win a team, and it's because their defenses were like
because you have
amazing.
Because you have those kind of bizarre years where there's such like, they do such everything else well, which would be the same thing in fantasy of having such a good running back, such a good tight end, like having lucking up and getting, say, like the Patriots defense, how they've been playing, where their defense is putting up 14 points a game. Like those are the things that make it more like football to me. So like quarterbacks matter. Like I like quarterbacks mattering more because Patrick Mahomes is to me the best, or Aaron Rodgers or whoever. Not to argue, but like those are the 2 best quarterbacks in the league to me. So they should be the 2 most important people in the league. That's just how I think of it.
Well, that's why you go back through history too, and it's all like the same in the 2000s. It's all the same quarterbacks. You got Tom Brady, you got Roethlisberger earlier on. You look back and it's just repeats of all the same fucking quarterbacks making it, because you need your quarterback. You need one of the best quarterbacks to do it. He's the leader of your team. Mm-hmm.
If you look at if you go back, to give a little history off my head, if you go look back from 2001 when the Patriots won the Super Bowl to last year when the Bucs won the Super Bowl, in the AFC, it's been Tom Brady, Big Ben, Peyton Manning, Joe Flacco, and that's your list for people who have won the championship and for who's been to the Super Bowl, pretty much. Because it's been the Broncos, Colts, Patriots, Ravens, and Steelers. Those teams have literally just filtered going in. And then in the NFC, it's been a lot of new teams. And then you have your Eli's that have such a good, who've just had 2 great playoff runs. But other than that, you get a lot of MVPs. Cam was the MVP of the league made there. You had the Eagles. I mean, obviously they had Nick Foles, but Carson Wentz was going to be the MVP. You've got Matt Ryan, who was the MVP. You've got Aaron Rodgers, who's been an MVP. Drew Brees, who's been close to an MVP. Russell Wilson, close to an MVP. So, like, you have, like, all teams, other than just a very few as we're talking about, have really good quarterbacks. Yep. Unless you're going to go back to, like, 2005 when they had Matt Hasselbeck in Seattle, but they also had the MVP of the league, Sean Alexander, at running back. I mean, now I'm just throwing out a lot of things for every people who don't really care about the history of NFL like I do. But yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, but I mean, I think all of us here, like the analytics. That's why we're all down for like the written history, and we all like the numbers. We're big fans of football, so we like the numbers. So I'm pretty sure most people will get it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, of course. I mean,
it's a good time. It's a good time.
I love delving into it.
I'm excited to see what happens with Austin and Camden. I think their teams are very closely matched. I don't know which way that's going to go.
See, okay, so
just about them much, and they're so close. Like it's really a coin toss. Honest to me, like I don't know. I would not put money down on any team because, like, man, it's going to be a hard watch.
I completely agree. So here, if you look at right now, you have Justin. Like, if you go by points for this year, our league speaks for itself. We got Justin at 1646. He's just blowing everyone out of the water. We've got Camden and Austin separated by 8 points. Then we've got me, you, and Jared separated by 3 points. Or no, by not even 3, by 2 points. And then you've got you've got Joe and Tyler. I'm sorry, Joe and Tyler. You got Joe and Ira at the bottom. And then you have the 2 weird outliers, which are always as outliers. We have Timmy, who was really barely in the outside of the playoffs, who doesn't have many points. And then we've got that team in Joey, who has the 5th most points, or the 4th most points, and just didn't win games because of how it happened. Like, that just happens. Like, that's our league, and that was why it's so fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have anything else you want to say pressing before going in? Any good lucks? Any things you want to say to anyone else in our league before we are done?
I just want to say good luck in your guys' fight for second place. Sorry in advance, Justin, but I got to take this one. It's going to be a good battle.
And, okay, so who do you want to see in the championship game if you had to pick somebody?
Dang. Who do I want to see? That's obviously it's impossible to see Justin, and I wouldn't want to see him. So obviously it's between Camden and Austin.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go Camden. I think I have a better shot against Camden. When I lost to him the first time, I don't remember, but I know it was like maybe within 9 points. It wasn't like a big loss if I remember right. And then I beat him the second time. I also had a close game against Austin, but Austin's team wasn't as good as it is now. When I played him the one time, and you switched out with did that tight end switch, Keenan Allen for Goddard, and he beat me by a little bit.
Yeah.
And I took that chance on quarterback and all that shit. I still would have beat him too. I just took that shot on quarterback and it didn't turn out. But his team was
that was the week that you tried Tyrod Taylor out.
Scary now. Now he's got Nick Chubb and his team has definitely come together. I'm going to say Camden by a little bit. Obviously, I'm not happy to see any of them, but I'm going to say Camden by a little bit.
You lost to Camden actually by 17 the first time.
Was it 17?
You lost to Camden 17 the first time, and that was a week where Tyler Lockett didn't come to play at all. And that week he just had a complete team win, and his team is completely consistent. So
what did I score? Did I score like 109?
You scored 100. You scored 100.95 to 117. So you were down 17, and it could have been a blowout if you would have put Matt Stafford in, because that was the week that the Bucs played the Rams and Stafford went off for 41.
Yeah,
but I mean, and also Also, a move for Camden to draft Jalen Hurts, Matt Stafford, and Lamar Jackson. You can make moves.
We all thought we all thought he was crazy, but it kind of turned out.
And that's now that we played around with it. If we do the same format next year, that could be the move. If you get running backs that are kind of like you can't, there's no one that you want to take that's good, and you can just find another quarterback that's good. Then you can work out a trade after a couple weeks and be like, hey, so I've got these quarterbacks for you. You don't have one. Let's make a deal.
Yeah, because sometimes when you're drafting, things just start falling where you want them to.
Yes.
You're just like, okay, I'm gonna get them. I pick in 3 picks. I think he'll be there. Boom, he's taken right before, and it just keeps happening, and it's just not falling, not getting the players you want. Kind of happened to me with receiver. I was wicked happy with my first 3 rounds. Loved my team. 3 or 4 rounds, and I'm like, okay, now let's go get receivers. And every receiver that I was high on was going like 2 picks before me. I'm like, and so now I'm taking like Juju, who I don't love, but he's next on the list. Mm-hmm. And I'm taking like Tyler Lockett, another guy I didn't love, but he was next on the list. So I'm taking all these guys that are like inconsistent, and I know they're inconsistent, but they're the next guy on the list. I'm not going to jump down,
Yeah.
So that's what it turned into, and that's been the story of my whole season. My running backs and my quarterback had been good, which I knew they would. I picked them early. I liked them. I picked Austin Eckler and Jones for a reason. And even Jones hasn't been because A.J. Dillon's been taking a lot of his production. But it's exactly how I knew it would be. How I drafted. I got my guys early that were going to do good. They've done well. They've saved my season. And the receivers who I didn't love have been my downfall. I knew it. It's I knew it from drafting. It's just how it turned out. But no, yeah, we all thought he was crazy, but the 3 quarterbacks turned out. He ended up getting some pieces, and no, it turned out.
It did. It did turn out. Well, Tyler,
for me, this is Camden's best year.
See, you could argue that even if he doesn't tie it off, just because the one year he won with a Todd Gurley trade, and then the other year was a weird year. I don't know. It just feels like since we started putting money in it last year, it just felt like a different league. Not that there's been asterisks on any type of championship prior, but it's at the same time it's like the league's just transformed, so it just feels different. It's got just a different feel. It feels like you had a league in the 70s, and then now you just have a league in today. It's like it's just now it used to be archaic, and now it's just like up to date.
I agree. It's like the next level of competitiveness,
Mm-hmm.
Like before it was 3 teams, and you knew those 3 teams were dominant. They had dynasties. Now you never know. The Jacksonville Jaguars could go out and fucking somehow upset the fucking Dallas Cowboys. You never know.
Yeah,
you never know.
Honestly,
and that's how it is. That's how it is now. You never know. You can't go into a week too comfortable because you never know. Some of those like Ira or Joe or one of the teams who were less fortunate this year could just go up and then fucking make you look like a chump.
Yeah, for sure. The league's let's say the NFL is deeper, which makes the fantasy draft and everything else deeper. That's one. Two, it comes to the fact that we just have smarter people in the league. Like, obviously, like respects to Tyler Wright, respects to Zach Supri, respects to Michael Martin, respects.
They were part of the build.
Yeah, but like they had to go. Respects to Curtis. Actually, I think he knows what he's talking about. It's just he has different values and opinions than other people, and he wanted to take the league in a different way. And then adding Joe DeZazzo, who knows what he's talking. Joe has crazy takes, but I love Joe, so you have to have those people. Then you've got Camden, who comes in, who's just quirky. You've got Timmy, who comes in, who is just authentic and different, but in the same way, as much as you can get annoyed with it, it's also just like you need it. Obviously, Joey's grown as a GM completely.
Most improved by far.
Most improved by far. Joey's completely grown as a GM. This year literally just came down to luck and maybe making one bad trade, but like it really just came down to luck. Then you got Justin, who has been just quiet, calm, cool, and collected, doing the thing that he always is. And then you've got you, me, Ira, Austin. So
yeah.
And Jared. Let me not say Jared. Jared, the guy who's just Jared's the guy from the streets who you can rarely talk to sometimes, but he's still there and he does know what he's talking about. He knows what he's doing. He has a couple questions.
He's 6'8".
does some things that raise your eyebrow a little bit, question marks, and then, but, it's Jared, so Jared's just Jared. That was a good talk, Tyler. I appreciate you coming on, and good luck to you this upcoming couple weeks. Good luck to everybody in the playoffs. Sucks for anyone who's going to be in last place. It won't be me, but good luck to everybody else.
Yeah, for real. Shout out to the second best Curry brother for the title for most threes.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody knows Steph is better.
Yeah, I'm sure. Shout out to who might be the GOAT at point guard in a few years. Anyways, all right, guys, I'll see you later, Tyler.
I'll see you. It was good talk.
Good talking to you too.